Welcome, everybody. We are here today with two of our scholar instructors and longtime friends and colleagues of ResearchTalk, Leslie Curry and Kristin Black. They will introduce themselves in more detail in a little bit. And what we're going to be talking about today in our ResearchTalk Qualitative Scholar Conversations is a course they're co-teaching. It's titled Writing Publishable Qualitative Manuscripts, Principles and Practices. And we have a description available at researchtalk.com on our QRSI page. And what you will find through today's conversation is that principles and practices piece, not only will you get a little bit of both, but both Leslie and Kristin live in a very comfortable place where the two of those meet elegantly. So with that said, I'm going to hand off to my partner, Paul Mihas. And yeah, Paul, if you want to get the questioning started, we're good to go.
So, yes, I'm Paul Mihas. I'm with the Odum Institute for Research in Social Science. I've also been with ResearchTalk as a consultant since 2001. And I'd like to start by asking the two of you to talk a little bit about your kind of evolution as qualitative researchers and what qualitative inquiry means for you.
Right. How about if you start, Kristin?
Okay, that's fine with me. So hi, everyone. I'm Kristin Black. I'm currently an assistant professor at UNC Chapel Hill, and I'm also been a research consultant with ResearchTalks for a while and teaching courses. So I'm really excited for this new course that I'm going to be teaching with Dr. Leslie Curry. And my evolution to qual was kind of like just being thrown into the pot, like a typical public health type of training that I received. You get one course on qualitative, and that's pretty much it. And so I had to seek out a lot of additional support through ResearchTalk courses and going to the Qualitative Research Summer Intensive when I was a student, but then also a lot of experience from the community engaged work that I was doing with my mentors and just being asked like, okay, now you're going to do focus groups or you're going to do interviews. And now, okay, we really want to trust in you to write this manuscript. And so I learned a lot from experience, but then also through trainings. And I think the experience really helped because I learned how to do qualitative in different ways. And really with the perspective of like working with large groups of other people that included community members, academics, and other students like myself. So that's given me lots of different perspectives of how to manage large teams with writing, with collecting and writing qualitative research. And it's really like, I guess it's like my love, because even though I'm trained in maternal child health and epidemiology, most of my work involves qualitative, or all of my work actually involves qualitative, either purely or in combination with quantitative work. So it's been a roller coaster ride since then. And I've published several articles related to qual. And I feel like through those experiences, I have a lot to share with others. So that's where I'm at.
And Kristin, you also have been a wonderful partner in teaching our writing camp, both open for anyone to register and with private clients as well.
Yes, that's true. Thanks for mentioning that. I forgot.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's a great experience. Yeah. Yeah, Leslie.
Great. Yeah, such good fortune to be able to do this work with Dr. Black. And I think as we chat a little bit, you'll hear, I think, really our complementary kind of, lenses and background and experience and perspectives. And we hope to kind of weave those together, in the course. So I'm Leslie Curry. I'm based at the Yale School of Public Health. I have also appointments in the School of Management and do lots of work with the School of Medicine. And my background is in qualitative and mixed methods, really derived from work I first did on my master's degree. And this was a long time ago. Ray and I aren't going to say how long we've known each other. But I came to qualitative methods because I was doing my master's thesis was on sort of filial responsibility and financing of long-term care for older adults, sort of this combination of very quantitative and very, and to me more important, qualitative dimensions of filial duty and sense of ethics and societal contributions and all these things that I found I couldn't measure quantitatively. So I grew really frustrated. I had the good fortune of having a mentor, Dr. Terry Weddle, at that time, who really encouraged me to learn qualitative methods. She was collaborating with Jay Schenzel and Steve Schenzel, who do fantastic work in ethnography. They were at UConn at the time. So those are my very first exposures. And as some of us would say, coloring highlighted pieces of paper and patching things to the walls was sort of my, my earliest days in qualitative methods. I think I would just maybe add one dimension of my experience I hope to bring to the teaching, and I've always been sort of mindful of this, is thinking strategically about how to introduce qualitative methods into like hostile or unfamiliar terrains. And so I've spent decades with the support of Ray and Jeff and other colleagues to try and introduce qualitative methods specifically in the health sciences, health services research arena. And, we've come a long way, but it hasn't been an easy road. Trying to advocate for both the rigor of qualitative methods and its relevance to answering complex questions in this area. So what I hope to bring is just that experience, kind of, as Kristin says, working in the real world, trying to get this science done well and out to make a difference, means you've got to be strategic in the way you approach the science. And so we'll bring that practical experience derived from our own, joys and tribulations in both submitting and revising and eventually publishing qualitative and mixed methods manuscripts. And I will stop there.
That's fabulous. Actually, both of you have started to address the first question we want to ask. I realized I didn't introduce myself, but just as I'm Ray Maietta, president of ResearchTalk. Started a couple years ago, right? We don't have to say. And we provide qualitative support in the form of professional development courses like the one we're talking about now, consultation, and what's called co-analysis when we join research teams. I'll have my colleague Jeff Petruzzelli introduce himself as he poses a question in just a little bit. But we wanted to hear more about the course, not directly from the description, complementary information to that. We like to think about why this course. I think you both did really good stage setting for that. And even kind of your own experiences that kind of not just brought you to be able to handle the content, and to kind of fill a need, but finding kind of the things that work. So a little bit kind of in that vein. Let me just, and if you go in other directions, we're happy. So let me see whoever wants to begin. And then the two of you I know complement each other well. So yeah, let me give it to both of you.
Will you like to go, Dr. Curry?
Sure, thanks. But please chime in. This is definitely a collaborative effort. And for me, really quite exciting. I've been teaching various kinds of workshops, for a very long time, and haven't had the opportunity to co-teach as much as I would have liked. And so I feel like this has been a gift, and really, for me, a really gratifying part of the opportunity to teach and work together in these forums in terms of these workshops. So this has evolved over time, and I think really benefited from Dr. Black's expertise and lens that is quite unique to mine, in terms of where we publish, the types of work we publish. Dr. Black has deep expertise in photo voice and participatory methods. I have less so there. And so I feel like we're able to bring kind of different, methodologic expertise and experience to the conversation. This interaction of kind of theory and practice is something that I think we're really mindful of. And so we talk about principles and practices. We do this, I think, with great intention for two reasons. First, really important to make sure that our work is theoretically grounded and that we understand what the methods bring to the unpacking of a phenomenon. And also to know that we've got to communicate this work often in the journals that Dr. Black and I publish in, 3,000 words, 4,000 words, in the health sciences, although Dr. Black has paper in social science and medicine, which is my dream, and we get more space there. I think there's this intersection of knowing kind of why we're bringing certain methods to the question, and then how exactly we do this in a really practical, pragmatic sense. I don't know if you have any big picture descriptions, Dr. Black.
Yeah, well, I know like one thing that's crucial is that oftentimes a lot for ResearchTalk clients, as well as like the work that I do with community partners and with students, that a lot of people are learning qual and deeply learning qual for the first time. And most of their training is in quantitative. So this course really focusing on qualitative research articles, which are not necessarily taught in school and something people usually learn from experience, that we're giving really grounded ways to do that in a proper way. Qual papers should not look like quantitative papers. And we want to really instill that in people, ways that they are different, how to set yourself up to successfully write it. And then also hoping, peek into how to do it through team, like with a little bit of teamwork too, because I think most qual work is done in teams. And with groups of people. And so how do you figure out how to work everybody into the flow of things and write a really productive, cohesive paper? So I think that giving those type of skill sets are really going to be beneficial for people in this class who've maybe never done it before or have done it in a different way.
That teamwork stuff is, you have so much experience with that, Kristin, and it's so important and much more common. So it's great that's there. Hey, Jeff, do you want to let people know a little bit about you, and then let us know what you're thinking as the conversation continues to flow?
Sure, thanks. I'm Jeff Petruzzelli, a qualitative research specialist with ResearchTalk. And like Paul, I've been with ResearchTalk since 2001. And I was just looking through the course description, and you mentioned a tool called the publication plan. And that's just the name alone sounds like something that would be really beneficial for people to learn. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that tool.
Sure, I'll start and Dr. Black chime in. This is just one of, hopefully, a number of tools that we hope to bring forward in the group. Remind me to say something about the co-creation of a library, because I'm going to forget unless somebody flags me. Maybe Jeff, you can remind me. But in this specific instance, publication plan is one tool that our group uses. There are lots of different names for this, but the principles are important. When we think about publication plans in our team and our work, it's really relevant because, as Dr. Black mentioned, we work in teams, we write in teams. And this tool is one that sets forth the different contributions of authors in the entire manuscript process very clearly. So in a transparent way, this is how we hope that you'll contribute your unique piece to the creation of this manuscript. And so it can be a basis for conversations around contributions and kind of keeping everything clear up front so people know what their role is. We don't often do this at least in the health sciences. And then second, we do a couple of other things with publication plans. One, we have a list of target journals, and we have 3 journals that are targets because we kind of have a dream journal, one that's really aspirational. We would be over the moon if we could land it there. We have one that we feel is really, solid and we'd really consider a big success. And then one where we're like pretty confident we can land this here and it's going to be impactful in important ways. And so in that we define the journals, word counts, all those kinds of structural things so that it kind of gets us all on the same page with where we're going. I say one more thing and then over to you, Dr. Black. For us, these publication plans are mostly really important in large scale studies or multi-phase studies where our inclination is like, oh, let's get this first paper out right away. And we need to be mindful not to eclipse sort of the full body of work. And so we were, really rely on these publication plans and these big studies to be like, no, these are how potential papers are going to fit together. They need to roll out in this way. And so that also helps us in thinking about how to kind of, make the most of the data set, but also be mindful not to truncate or eclipse, specific papers. Those are, I think, the big pieces of publication plans as we think about them. I don't know, Dr. Black, more to add?
No, you laid it out clearly, and I think it's important how you're sharing the pieces, particularly around plans for the data, like how different types of articles that may come out of it. Because some people may say, oh, I'm just going to have the whole entire study in this one article, and that's all I'll be able to produce. But if you think about this ahead of time and you really know your data, your methods, like all the different pieces to it, then you can make plans on how you're going to kind of cut it up into several pieces so that people can see, you can really go really deep into it. And also, because you might have limited space in some of these articles, you may not be able to do everything possible about that study in one kind of article. So if you have a plan ahead of time, you really can like parse that out into meaningful ways.
And that plan is like living and breathing, right? You can be working on publication 2, and then all of a sudden this insight appears about, wait a minute. So it really is, it's living and breathing, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I also like it to see it as like opportunities for other people to publish that maybe like students or postdocs or other people who are trying to get first authored papers or things like that. So you can on your team really see, and that lives and breathes because you always have students coming in and out of your projects that you'll have like, okay, these have to be led by the PIs or the co-Is that are leading that portion. And then these other topics might be topics that a student is interested in and they can explore for their dissertation or other things like that, or that topic for their dissertation. So other papers can come out of the data too. So that's why it's like living and breathing, because other ideas may come out or the people might want to look at it and analyze it from different ways after you've collected the data. So it's very helpful.
Yeah, great. Jeff, did you want to ask the follow-up that Leslie, the reminder?
Yeah, just you had mentioned the co-creation of libraries. So
Yeah.
Library.
Thank you. I know you do. I knew you would. Thank you. And Dr. Black, chime in, because I think I don't think it's a unique feature of our workshop, but I think it's a really important one. We've had the pleasure of getting, great attendance by amazingly talented people from very different backgrounds, perspectives, training, doing different kinds of projects. Themselves been trained in different places by different people. And so there's this richness in the space that for me has been just really fun and really valuable. Meaning when we're working throughout the day, somebody will say, oh, I have this really good example of this thing, or, oh, I got this response letter that was just so scary and awful. I didn't know what to do with it. Or, oh, I have found this source paper on sampling, criteria and blah, 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 really useful. And so we kind of just track that throughout the time together. And at the end, we, compile things that we're able to share. Some stuff's still firewalled, I guess, sadly. But for the things that we can distribute, kind of bundle it up and share with people at the end. And that kind of crowdsourcing really can yield some useful, just practical go-to kinds of resources. And it looks different every time. It's really just built out organically from the conversations that we have throughout the time together. And so it doesn't always look the same, but it addresses the needs like within that particular group that we're working with. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think it's like highly valuable to like get everyone's kind of resources. I think it's really important that for some people, it's hard to just work with a blank screen. So like having templates of things or examples can be helpful. And then one thing we'll get into in the course is thinking about things to cite when certain people ask you to do something, like a peer reviewer asks you to do something and you're like, what do I cite to prove that what I did is correct? And so some of those questions too come into play. So it's like having citations, having templates, having other examples of people's work at the different, not just the article, but like Dr. Curry saying their letter, the letter that they received on what to make corrections on and things like that. Having those examples can be very helpful for people along the way in the writing process.
Hey, Paul, for you, I want to invite you into the conversation. I know your mind's always generating on what you're hearing.
Sure. So I guess I wanted to raise the issue of how some researchers really kind of struggle with writing, and they struggle with finding their own voice because they're trying to sound like somebody else. And I'm wondering how your course can help people, not just with principles and practices, but also just giving them permission to claim their own style, their own rhythm, and not having to sound like anybody but themselves.
This is a fantastic question.
Yeah, because I immediately thought of something. Because in the course description too, it talks about like other ways of writing, like pre-writing, which could be through memoing, diagramming, and other forms. And I think by emphasizing that people are using their own, like you can't write a memo like somebody else. Like you could try, but usually you would want it to be in your pure voice. And so by doing that memoing and having some like ideas about how you're seeing the data and looking at it, crafting different ways of like how to structure your paper and looking at themes through diagrams and memos can really kind of solidify your voice. And then it's going to be, how can I take that content and weave it into a manuscript that really shows my voice, but also highlights and centers the voices of the people that, if you're with people, because there's other types of qualitative data, but if you have direct quotes from people, that you're highlighting and centering that too, while also weaving in your voice to really summarize what the group is saying as a whole. So I think that's like a critical time to kind of develop your voice, and then like trying to maintain that and not try to switch it into someone else's voice because you think it's better.
Yeah,
That's the
fantastic.
relief of pressure too, Kristin. It's great listening to you. And kind of Paul, of what you said, when Kristin, when you responded, I was just thinking, yeah, that really does the trick. Oh, yeah. Leslie, you were just going to add more, I think.
You know, I can't add any more to that. That's just a really fantastic response. I think just maybe a footnote is this question also around jargon. And, you know, we're going to really kind of dig into that as a group, because it's tricky. In my experience, it's tricky balance of using methodologic terminology, which is precise and which represents our work, at the same time as we don't want to alienate reviewers and readers who may experience these words as jargon. And this may just be my own baggage from writing in health sciences journals from the time, like one of the first qualitative papers published in a health sciences journal we did in Annals of Internal Medicine in, I don't know, 2011, or I don't know. There's a resistance and a frustration, I think, that can happen when we have reviewers who aren't qualitatively trained or aren't familiar. And so it's this tension of, do we assert with our own language, you know, yes, and, you know, how are we mindful of how that's received and experienced? And I think this is kind of unique to qualitative methods. You know, we don't have this trouble if we're talking about statistics generally. So that's something that we'll spend some time on too, kind of like figuring out that balance of you know, using technical terms that to us mean something very precise, at the same time as, you know, we're sure that readers can understand.
Beautiful. Yeah. I want to kind of do something that our clients think a lot about when they're thinking about courses. Kind of nuts and bolts, they think about, okay, so I'm going to spend this time learning from these two scholars, and how will it be different? So people think about your courses Wednesday and Thursday. Maybe we'll let them relax a little bit, get back to work on Monday. So if you imagine people in your course, when they're ready to go and they've got a manuscript either they've been working on or they waited to hear what they learned from the two of you and they're ready to go, kind of visualize, if you will, a student or two kind of at that person's desk. What would you really kind of feel like, wow, that person's on a great path? What would you like to see or kind of like hear that, you know, all right, here's how somebody took what they learned and integrated it into their work?
Well, it's a great question. I love this question because it's emphasizing that you're not just going to take this class and then do nothing afterwards and not really take it and apply it. And I think it's important to think this through, just like we're talking about planning ahead with your manuscript. You know, you need to plan it after you take a course, like how are you really going to apply it? And I think I would hope that people would feel confident with having different strategies on how to even start building a manuscript in a way and that's crafted well, and how to really tailor their voice and probably the voices of all the team members that they're working with to write it, to have like a clear, well-written paper, and how to show, or article, I should say, and how to do that, and how to really tailor it to the type of journals that they're interested in publishing in, because I think that's another key aspect of it. So it's just like having this confidence to say, okay, I have all these tools, I can make a plan for myself to get this done, and it's going to be done in a way that's going to be well received by the journal. that I want to target, or the journals I want to target. So that's my hope.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, that's my same hope.
Okay,
I maybe would just, how could I extend that a little bit? Maybe into the minutia. So I would hope the person who's sitting at their desk, on Monday, and they're struggling through a response letter, says to themselves, oh, we workshopped this problem, this question around saturation, and somebody had a great response for X or Y, and just literally being able to pull up that same citation, that same kind of case rationale argument kind of thing, and bring it forward. So both in the kind of spirit of being able, feeling equipped, like Dr. Black's describing, and then also just kind of in the mechanics of being equipped, meaning you've got folders that have X and Y in them, and you can access this information, quickly, and it's something that you need, and so a toolbox, I guess, as well as thinking about broadly what you're trying to build.
Yeah, I love that. That's definitely how it should be. You would hope for them.
Our aspirations.
As we come toward a close, I'm going to capitalize on a word you just gave us, Kristin, hope, and I'm curious, and I actually want to invite Jeff and Paul, if something comes to your mind when I ask this question, to answer this too, and I have my own. If you think about your writing so far and what you've done, is there a piece that you still hope to write, or you wish, because this is the thing when we think about our publication plan, all this stuff, there's stuff we get done, and there's the stuff of if only. So is there something that sits on your if only list that either you wish you had done, or someday I know I'm going to get to it? So just out of curiosity, to show a little bit of your substance and where that went, and maybe the piece that got away, or the piece that's not going to get away, however you might be able to play it. So whoever wants to go first.
Want me to go first? Because
sure.
I do have one. Yeah, Dr.
Yeah.
Black?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is oversharing, and I do not have a briefly formed thought. So maybe this is an example that I should set forth. However, I was just invited to write a perspectives piece in Circulation about qualitative and mixed methods, sort of where is it going in the next 20 years or whatever. And one segment of it, we brought a health equity lens to the piece. I had two awesome co-authors. And one segment that we got to was around AI, the power of big data and kind of future trends in big data. And, I have deep biases, which I, shared in the original version of the article. And we wrote about kind of the lesions and risks in big data and how qualitative research can really help address some of those. And through reviews, we were strongly encouraged to shrink that way down. And I feel like there's a piece there still. And so I would like to write something maybe, more robust and extensive around raising flags in terms of the excitement and the shininess of big data and big data analytics, and encouraging people to think about alternative ways of measurement and knowing and understanding. So it's kind of an advocacy piece almost, maybe, I don't know. But it's certainly just a thought.
That's beautiful. Kristin, I can go next. You can go next, whatever you prefer.
You go on, Ray. I can go afterwards.
So for me, my piece that maybe got away was when I was doing my dissertation work. The dissertation was titled "Lost in the Shuffle: In Search of Wayward Friendship," and really, as a sociologist, kind of looked at how, even though friendship's not contractual, it competes against real life obligations, family and work and on and on. But there was this part about serendipity in friendship and almost kind of just luck. Like these two women, one woman talked about this great friendship that formed. She just happened to be someone who sat in the front of the class. So did her friend. And then her grandmother passed away, and she wasn't her friend at the time. They didn't know each other, but she seemed like she thought, oh, she's pretty diligent. Let me see if I can get notes from her. And then later in the semester, the second person's grandmother passed away. And then they started sharing personal stuff. So I've been thinking about this, and then through my work with clients, whether it's public health infrastructure or medical caregivers, familial caregivers, on and on, could be things in education. We work with a range of clients. This notion of the serendipitous and how it integrates, how it strengthens, it still like lives with me. And now we're working on a project on lifelong friendship, doing dyadic interviews with people who've been friends for at least 20 years. And it's like living and breathing there. So a part of me doesn't want to force it as a qualitative researcher, but that's my my thing, that my piece that's kind of like, you're not done yet. Don't sneak away yet. So what about for you, Kristin?
For me, there's a paper that I really need to write. I collected some data with one of my colleagues about how the experiences of overt and covert racism among students at one of the universities I used to teach at. And we did a lot of dissemination. We actually turned some of that data and it made a film about it, but we never wrote the article. And so it's like the one thing that I'm like, we really need to disperse this, because I think it's really important information that we received about students' experiences on campus, particularly BIPOC students, and that's Black, Indigenous, people of color. And that is, I think, resonates across our nation. So I was like, I want to really get that out with her, and I need to prioritize it. That's like maybe a summer project next fall. Like I keep saying I'm gonna do it, and then it never gets done. So it's like really weaving it into my writing plan for the remainder of this year. So I want to get that out.
We're going to clip this piece of the conversation, Kristin, and I'm going to send it to you every once in a while.
Okay. That's a good idea. I need that accountability.
Cool. We'll find all sorts of ways to keep on keeping each other accountable. I just want to check with Jeff or Paul if you think about something, Jeff and I'll work with clients. Is there anything that you're thinking, wow, a piece like that might be good? Or Paul, for you, I know there's lots of stuff when your work at Odum and your work in kind of enhancing the lives of methodologists, it gets in the way, but your mind is so rich with thought. So I just wanted to see if either of you wanted to introduce anything before we close out.
Well, I think there are kind of a number of things that I could mention, but one thing just in terms of methods, and other people have kind of addressed this, but it's sort of looking at the combination of art and science, and how we oftentimes talk about being analytical, and we shy away from talking about being creative because we think that's not right. And so I wanted to kind of re-engage that conversation of creativity in qualitative research, and kind of sell the strengths of it, and elevate that particular way of thinking and working. And I'm also just thinking of the work of Margaret Sandalowski, who once said there's a difference between making things up and making things out. And making things out sometimes requires creativity. And I would like to kind of dive into that a bit more.
That's beautiful, Paul. How about for you, Jeff?
Well, working at ResearchTalk, the easy answer is the Sort and Sift, Think and Shift book, not article, but book. So, yeah, we have our qualitative analysis approach, qualitative research approach, Sort and Sift, Think and Shift, and we have an article and a chapter about it, but it's definitely deserving of a book, and we've talked about it for a long time, so that's definitely on the wish list.
And it's also on the agenda as a fall course coming up. So take a look at that. Anything either of you, our two star scholar instructors, want to say to close this up?
I'll just start with thanks. Thanks for the opportunity. We get asked to do teaching in lots of different settings, but this is one that I always will say quickly yes to, both for the opportunity now to be able to co-teach with Dr. Black. I learn something every time, but also just because of the sense of the community that you create here in this space. I think it really is quite unique. And so I appreciate it. So I'm looking forward to the time together.
Beautiful. And we appreciate your involvement. You're definitely part of the family. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that ResearchTalk is near and dear to my heart, and I love to give back and participate in any way possible. But it's truly an honor to be working alongside Dr. Curry. I've done little guest peeks in some of her courses before, and it's like an opportunity to be now side by side learning from her, but also learning from all the people who are going to be taking the course as well. I feel like it's a co-learning environment, which is what I really love about ResearchTalk's courses. And so I'm just really excited to see who takes the course, so come take the course, and also to see how what my experiences meld with Dr. Curry's to help other people just be strong writers, qualitative writers.
Wonderful. Yeah, it was just a great opportunity to partner the two of you on this venture. And we really look forward to the course on July 31st and August 1st. And thank you for your time. And yeah, this will just be the next step in what we contribute. So wonderful. Much appreciated.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks.